Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prophet podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprophet.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Prophet podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey, and today we're going to wrap up our wide receiver ranks that we started last week. We went 1 through 30 last week, and I think today we're going to turn around and go 31 through 50. Maybe not as in-depth on some of these. We'll kind of spotlight the players we like, because there's a lot of guys on here. It's just, do you care about them? Probably not. We don't have a strong opinion on. If we do, it might be negative. But there's some guys down here also that we really actually like too. Like, we'll bring some of these guys up in a little bit. Before we get into that, make sure you check us out on Twitter at the FF Prophet. Fantasy Football Prophet is on Instagram. fantasyfootballprophet.com is the website. And you can also email us at fantasyfootballprophet@gmail.com. And once again, we're going to talk to you about a little bit about the FanUp Network app. And we haven't said, we have turned down a lot of advertising on this show. We just don't feel like we want to talk about something if we don't actually think it's a good product or a good app or something. I think it's a lot different with FanUp. That's why we actually decided to go with them. It's basically, if you haven't heard before, you can take all your teams from all different formats, ESPN, NFL. I think they have ESPN, Yahoo, NFL, My Fantasy League, and basically puts them in one spot. You just add your team in there, log in, and all your teams, you can go in one app and find them all on all the different platforms. That, to me, is like insane time saver. You don't have to have 5 apps on your phone for all that.
Remembering passwords and all that good stuff.
Yeah, it's just like you don't have to log in every single time to just check scores. On Sunday, you get one app, shows all your teams up there.
So if you guys play fantasy football on different platforms like we do, obviously me and Craig both do a lot of different ones. This is a great product for that. It's quick, it looks sleek, it's easy to use, and it does save you a ton of time. So definitely check that out. Yeah,
definitely. I've been using. I've already added most of my teams on there, and it's gonna be nice when I actually get to use it. Once week 1 rolls around, which still feels too far away, just
inching closer.
We're getting there, but. Let's talk about some wide receivers. We got our draft this weekend, so we should. These are the guys that we've been targeting. It's why you can get running backs heavy, because these guys, it's deep when you get to wide receivers. So we're going to start off probably with a guy we don't really care about as much, number 31, Emmanuel Sanders. My 34th ranked player, your 30th ranked player. And it's not the player here. It's more of the situation and the quarterback situation. And I don't feel like it's a very good quarterback situation. And I don't know if it will be. It's going to be okay, but I think Sanders has suffered since Peyton Manning hasn't been Peyton Manning since he wasn't there.
Yeah,
and it's just he's okay. He's okay. That's what it is. So we're actually a little lower, I think, on him than some people. It's something I can't get excited about him as a player right now.
And that's mostly why I'm not excited. Is because at this, if you couldn't get him right here at 31, then he has good value, right? Because even last year he had almost 80 receptions, about 1,000 yards, 5 TDs.
Yeah.
So. That's good production out of that. But right now, he's going as a wide receiver 2. And at that ADP, I'm not a huge fan. But once again, he does have upside. It's more, can that quarterback turn around? I don't see it improving a tremendous amount. So I'm a little more skeptical about Emmanuel Sanders.
And that's where I am too. So if you can get him at 31, I think that's a good value. So he's ranked as the 23rd. His ADP, though, is 27. So he's still going higher. And it's just... I don't know. I just don't think I don't expect much from Denver's passing offense, so that's where I'm going to be down on him. So that's what it is. It's just not something I'm excited about. 32nd, it's Jeremy Maclin, my 36th ranked player. Your 31st ranked player. Mm-hmm. He's interesting because he's in a new situation. Obviously, a lot of targets have left Baltimore, who threw for the most pass attempts basically the last 2 years. No Steve Smith, no Dennis Pitta, Kamar Aiken. List goes on. Yeah. So none of these guys. It's Jeremy Maclin, Mike Wallace, it's Brashard Perriman, and people are kind of just thinking it's going to be Macklin's going to step into that slot role and catch a lot of balls, and I think he probably will. So I think he's probably going to catch a lot of passes, and maybe last year he was injured a lot, but the year before that he was pretty good in 2015 for the Chiefs. He had a pretty solid season. It's just like, is he done now? We get a lot of these guys, I think, in this range or in this same kind of age, too, where it's like they're on that verge of just not being the player they once were, and it's hard to expect players of this age to actually bounce back. You know what I mean? Some people, I don't know if he will, but I think he's safe enough with that many targets to go around. Just can't expect Eagles' Jeremy Maclin to show up.
Yeah, and that's very true. And once again, this is a guy I really do like because I did have him at 31.
Yep.
And right now he's 38. So I'm actually a little higher than most ADP is going right now, and mostly because I do think he's going to jump back into being. I mean, he's the number one wide receiver there, so I think he's going to get that kind of production. As far as I think he could be a top 25 receiver. Do I think he's going to be a top 10 like he was in Philly? No, I don't. I don't think he's ever going to return to that. But even 2 years ago, he was 17th when he actually was healthy.
Yep.
So if I take him at his word that he was actually banged up he played 12 games last season, but he said he still was banged up throughout the whole thing. And he had a terrible season.
Yeah, and maybe it was the injury. We'll find out.
Yeah, so I like his upside, especially when you get down here. If I'm looking for value, I really do think he is one of them. Yep. I guess that's a little more me. I'm not, it's not like I'm taking a huge jump on him, but, I'm 7 spots above where ADP is. So I really do like him. I think Baltimore is in desperate need of playmakers.
All right, 33 is going to be Stephon Diggs, my 33rd ranked, your 34th ranked. He's actually a guy I like a lot. I don't like the situation. I think the player is talented, very talented. In a better situation, I would really like Diggs. I don't think that's this with Sam Bradford and he's going to throw the ball 2 yards. And throw for 92% completion percentage because he doesn't throw it anywhere. I mean, 7 touchdowns only for Diggs last year, so he's not getting touchdowns. If he's not going to get touchdowns, it's hard to jump him much more than this. And even his yards per catch was last year. You can see the difference with Sam Bradford. That's what you can see here. Is his rookie year, he had 13.8 yards per catch, and then last year dropped to 10.8. That's Sam Bradford for you, and that's a worry. He had 84 catches, so you're thinking 84 catches, that should really jump. He only had 900 yards out of 84 catches.
Yeah.
That's really it's going to be hard to really succeed, I think, with Bradford at quarterback if that offense doesn't. And maybe it's not Bradford, but just that offense.
Yeah, I do too. I don't like the offense. I think he's going to struggle. I think he will have a few games where he's very good because he's a talented guy. And he's one of them that I'm kind of rooting for, but I'm with you 100%. I don't like the situation that he's in. He's a talented guy that's just going to be limited by his quarterback.
All right, we're going to talk about 34 and 35 here because it's 2 old guys that played for the Jets last year that we differ on quite a bit. So
Brandon Marshall
and Eric Decker.
Nice.
So first, Decker actually comes in ranked 1 hot spot ahead of Brandon Marshall in our consensus. I had Decker 40th. You have him 28th. Then Marshall, I have him 30th. You have Marshall 39th. So we differ completely on these guys. Yeah. But they're it's the same thing. They're up there in age. They're both leaving a terrible team from last year. And actually, they both are going into what we think are going to be good offenses. You'd think off the top of your head, Giants should be better, but why is Tennessee's right there?
Yeah, so, they're a little more unknown, right? You don't know where their throws are going to go to.
So I guess I'm the one who actually has Marshall ranked well ahead of Decker, but I guess the argument is Decker has a much clearer shot at the number 1 receiver role than Brandon Marshall has no shot at the wide receiver 1 role. That's, I guess, I'm already going against myself here. The thing is, I guess I'm looking at it too is I think of it as Marshall has only Beckham as much. I don't think there's much else there to. I don't know. Is Sterling Shepard? I don't even know what his injury is now. If he's coming, what his situation was. I don't care because I don't care. I don't care. I don't think he's that much of a difference maker at all. And Evan Ingram, I don't think is going to do much. I kind of think Corey Davis and Rashard Matthews and Delaney Walker just more targets to take away from Decker. That's it. It's not even. That's pretty much where I'm at.
And this is surprising to me too. So I had to look up Decker obviously to make sure that I wasn't just completely biased. But first of all, I think Corey Davis, he's a rookie, so I'm kind of assuming he's going to have a slow progression to fully get up. I think he's going to be very good, but I think it'll take him a year to get there. Rashard Matthews is more of a possession guy. He doesn't really go for the red zone stuff. Delaney Walker, I know you're not a big fan of him, actually.
I'm really not.
So I think Decker actually falls into a situation where he's going to actually be that number 1 wide receiver, and he catches a ton of touchdowns anyway. I mean, even when he's not the number 1 guy, he usually catches about 8 because he's a tall guy that is great in the red zone. And going back to 2012, just talking about positional rank and wide receivers, I mean, take this with a grain of salt, right? This is not what he was because he was on Peyton Manning teams. He was on great situational ones. So he was 8th overall in wide receiver, 10th 29th, 10th, and then he got hurt.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. He can put up those numbers, and he was in very good situations to do so.
Yep.
Places where he could really take the bulk of the load, or he was with a phenomenal offense, so he could sneak in and get a ton of touchdowns. But he's a very sneaky very sneaky fantasy play every single year, and every single year he always gets underrated, and that's why he makes. He's within my top 30, so 28. You said, which it sounds crazy. But don't sleep on Decker. I think he's a great value.
And the offense should be solid. So
yeah, and it really does rise and fall with Mariota and whether or not they grab a rapport. So you're taking a little risk, but I think relatively safe.
And I guess I'm taking the chance that Marshall has one more year in him, but we don't know if he does or not.
He very well could. I mean, he's been one of the best wide receivers in the past decade, which is, it's just true.
All right, number 36, we'll go to young guys here. Thinking breakouts, Devontae Parker. My 31st, your 38th. I still have kept Parker up there after the Tannehill injury, but it makes me think a little more, and I'm not as excited about it because part of the whole idea of Parker breaking out this year is not the fact that he's just, extremely talented and maybe he has the whole NFL thing figured out a little bit more. Is he played with the same quarterback for the last 2 years. It just was something, would help out. I don't know what to expect from Cutler. We think he could target him maybe because he's like those big receivers in the past, but it's no sure thing. There's no one knows.
And he still is number 3 on the depth chart.
Yeah, I'm worrying a little bit more. I haven't dropped him yet, but I see myself not drafting him a lot right now. And I'm worried because he was my biggest breakout guy, and this quarterback situation just scares me now.
Yeah. And he's much more boom or bust kind of player. And right now, what happens with a lot of players is, do you love him more than other people love him? Mm-hmm. And right now, people love him more than I do. And everyone's kind of jumping on the hype train, and they should. Yep. He's that talented, but at the same time, I put my eggs in other baskets, I guess.
And I'm a big believer in him, thinking he's going to have a good breakout year. But it still doesn't mean I'm going to reach for him. And that's what ends up happening. I don't reach for him. So I don't get him. But I like him. I still like him. I guess I want to see what Cutler does in preseason, especially preseason game 3. See what happens there, how they look. All right, number 37, Julian Edelman. He's both of our 35th. This is another guy just doesn't do much for us, especially with that many players to throw the ball to in the Patriots. Edelman's fine. He's a good player, but I think if you have Cooks, if you have healthy Gronk, if you have those running backs to throw to, he's going to suffer a little bit. And he's just going to be okay, but I don't know. We're lower than him. His ADP is 25. So
yeah, we're very. And he's one of these guys that gets underrated too, but at the same time, he kind of hovers around there. So last year he was 24th overall in wide receivers, and the year before that he was 37th, and then 26th, 19th, and before that, he wasn't relevant. So could he jump up there? Yeah, but he doesn't. If I missed out on him, I would never kick myself because he's not going to burn me. So this is one of the guys that I'd rather take a chance on someone else, unless you're really hurting for consistency. Then you could throw him on your roster. But even then, it's not a whole lot to get excited about.
No, it just never does much for me. I don't think I've ever had Julian Edelman on one of my teams in fantasy ever.
No, I haven't either.
It's just one of those players. It's just sad.
No, and he never catches a whole lot of touchdowns, which really limits him.
Yep.
He's one of those that he's a better football player than he is a fantasy football player.
Yeah. All right, these next two guys are actually two players I think we're a little more excited about. So 38th and 39th. It's going to be Tyrell Williams, 38th, my 39th, your 37th, and Cameron Meredith, my 38th, your 40th. I think we're both a little bit more. These are guys I'm more excited about in this range that we think could have a jump. Tyrell Williams has kind of come on a little bit more here later because of Mike Williams and what is his injury status, and it really does. He's not going to be back around until October at the earliest, I think. And Tyrell Williams, for what he wasn't a rookie last year, it kind of feels like he was because no one knew who the heck he was. He busted on the scene, but the year before he only had 2 catches, but 2 catches for 90 yards the year before. So he was this big play guy, but he had 69 catches for over 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns last year. That's impressive.
It is.
And if Mike Williams isn't around, why isn't that going to... Keenan Allen, yes. But I still think there's going to be a lot in that passing game. So where he's getting drafted, though, I think he's definitely...
Yeah, without doubt.
He was getting a lot lower than this before.
Without Mike Williams there to really crowd that wide receiver, he's going to be a number 2, which I think is a great spot for him. And like you said, I think there's plenty to go around with that offense. We saw even last year they did very, very well, and they were without Keenan Allen, and Antonio Gates was a little bit hobbled, and they were using a rookie tight end a lot. So I think that they're going to be even stronger this year, and I think Keenan Allen being healthy, both of them, I think will help each other. So he's one of them that I've seen. You can't really call him a sleeper because he's not, but a lot of people getting closer to the draft kind of remember last year and how well he did and starting to draft him a little higher. So I do like him.
And then Cameron Meredith, another guy who wasn't actually a rookie last year, but it felt like he was. Same kind of situation where their rookie years they didn't do anything. He kind of came on the scene a little bit, not right away, so his stats aren't going to look great over the full year because it took him a while before he started catching balls, but when he did, he was really good. And it seems like he's going to be the number one over Kevin White because, I don't know if Kevin White's ever going to actually do anything. And Kevin White does not make our top 50 because we have nothing to – just don't know. There's not really a tight end to throw the ball to there that's going to take a lot of catches, I think, from him. Cameron Meredith, I think, catch the ball a lot and just be a very solid player.
And Cameron Meredith is a guy that I'm pretty high on. He did a lot with nothing last year. He played 14 games, 66 receptions. All of these are repeating numbers. It's ridiculous. 888 yards and then 4 TDs. So he had 4 games he went over 100 yards, and he was still getting his feet under him. So he really didn't come on until about week 11, where he started getting multiple catches a game. And he did actually. He's kind of sporadic, but he was he's kind of new to it. So if he can increase that touchdown number, which I think he can because he's a 6'3" wide receiver, going to be number one, we already know he can get the yardage because he really got all of those points through yardage last year. Yeah. So I'm very high on this guy. I really, really like him, and I think you can get him for really, really cheap because he's on a very lackluster passing offense.
Yep.
So this is a guy that's another one that I really like for value.
Our next guy is another. This is where you go from excited to just, I could care less. It's Pierre Garçon, 40th.
Yeah, you can talk him up because you had a good point about where at least he's in a good position, right?
Yeah, but you know what? I don't want to draft my players based on just volume alone. I want volume and talent. And I don't know how much. Maybe Garçon still has some of that talent left, but I don't know. I don't see it as much. He's just okay at this point. You kind of know what you're going to get. You're not going to get this amazing breakout guy. I don't see myself drafting Pierre Garçon ever. Because when I'm down here, I'm probably going to go for the upside play. So I don't end up with Pierre Garçon on a team of mine. I'm not excited about it. Yeah, he might get a lot of targets, but just staying away. I just don't care. I want volume, but I want volume and talent, and I don't see that.
Yeah, so he's going to be a number one wide receiver on a struggling team. Is he worthwhile to have on your team? It's possible. I think you can use him in bye week fill-ins, things like that. I think he's going to reach 1,000 yards pretty easily for the wide receiver one if he stays healthy. Yeah. I don't see a lot of touchdowns in his future, but I don't really see him getting above a top 30 wide receiver. Yep. I don't think that's in his future. So.
Better in PPR than standard.
Mm-hmm.
41 is John Brown. He actually ranked 41st for both of us. And I'm not going to go too much into John Brown. We talked about him a lot. A couple episodes. I'm still under the assumption that, and I believe last year was an injury-filled season, that's why he went down, because he was on a good pace to really jump up. We talked about a lot of third-year, fourth-year wide receiver breakouts. He had that pace to move up there like that. I think I might have tried to compare it to Antonio Brown. But I know, crazy. But I like the potential, and I like the fact that he's not getting overdrafted. So I like him. I'm going to pick him over Garçon all the time. And maybe that's the thing. You may think, okay, Pierre Garçon, he probably should be ranked ahead of Brown because, chances are he's going to get more catches and probably, maybe 75% of the situations, chances he's going to be better than him. But there's that chance that John Brown becomes really, really good. There's not that chance for Garçon. That's the difference.
Yeah. Especially for the position he's in. Palmer can still play. He's an aging quarterback, but I haven't seen, besides for injury, he puts the ball in play. He can really get it where it needs to go. Fitzgerald is an aging wide receiver that's turned more into a tight end. He's still a very good football player. But John Brown has the ability to really turn out to be the number one wide receiver if he plays well. And just 2 years ago, before he had all of this mess of health issues, he ended as the 21st wide receiver. And he's still a young guy. This will be his 4th year in the league. So to Craig's point, why you were hyping him up before, I'm kind of starting to come around on John Brown, assuming that he's healthy, right?
Because you can still get him for,
next to nothing.
Good price.
Yeah.
Another guy, number 42, who I like a lot, Randall Cobb.
Yeah, I'm going to let you run with that.
It's not
because
okay.
You love Randall Cobb so much.
It's not even a lot. I like where you're getting him value-wise for what potential I think is there. That's the difference, I feel like. Down here, I feel like you're not risking anything to take a guy right here. And if those last 2 years where Randall Cobb were injuries, again, this is the same situation.
Yeah.
If that was the case, I feel like he could come back. 2014, he was the 6th receiver. He finished as the 6th receiver. Like, that's crazy. Devontae Adams took that role last year, really, that Cobb role. So, will he ever get back to that 2014? No. But I think he can get a lot higher than being in the 40s.
Yeah.
That's
good, especially if he's still some of those touchdowns that Devontae Adams and Jordy had, because they both had a ridiculous amount. Both of them are double digits. So is it out of the realm of possibility? No. He could be someone that's very useful. But I think he's going to be really more hit and miss. Yep. But when you're down here, do you really care? You're just looking for upside.
It's a complete upside for me, and that's why I like it. It's just there is a chance. He's done it before. He's been a top 10 wide receiver before. He still has age on his side. So
I know, it's still
there
young.
is a chance, and that's where I like to take, especially if you're pretty set above it, wide receiver. These are like wide receiver 5s at this point, almost. So if this is your 4-5, you feel a lot more comfortable.
Yeah.
That's why I like it. Now, Jeff's favorite player in the draft here is 43rd. It's Deshaun Jackson.
Okay, I'm never going to have Deshaun. And it makes me sound like I hate the guy. I don't. I just I have no need for him. Yeah. I think he's overdrafted every single time.
I hate boomer bust players.
Yeah, and he hasn't even really been that big of a draw for the past years, but still people always because he's so fast and he had those years where he was such a good wide receiver. But yeah, he irks me to no end. I can't ever feel safe with him in my lineup, and that was 3 years ago when he was much more of a player.
You can put him on a best ball team if you have that, where you get his best weeks, but I'm never playing him because I never know when his best weeks are going to happen in a regular redraft league. It's
just ready to pull your hair out.
So I'm going to move on to 44, who I think we're actually a little bit higher on. I guess maybe this is our Lions bias coming through. It's Marvin Jones. Ends up as our 44th player. And he was an afterthought for a while here because this is how terrible his second half of the season was. Yeah. I just think it'll be a mix of the first and the second half. I think it's a mix. I don't think you'll see first half, obviously. I don't think second half will happen. I think there's some injury stuff going on there, too. It seemed like he was battling through some stuff. And, I mean, yes, a lot of times players will say that, too, once they had a terrible season, like certain, and you can see, but you can see that I believe it more because how do you go from what he was at the beginning of the year to what he was at the end of the year? That's a big difference. I know a lot of players, they like to save face and, I was injured. I've heard this a couple times this year. And I don't know, when you see that drastic of a drop-off, it could be true.
Yeah. And I do. And I think it was also a little bit of a, figure out how to play with each other because Golden Tate and him are both very good, wide receivers. They both can catch a lot. The big difference between Marvin Jones and Tate was they pretty much traded when they caught touchdowns. So in the first 6 games, Marvin Jones had 4 touchdowns. And then after that, I don't think he didn't have 1. Yep. So that was the big one. I mean, he came out of the gate just smoking. So if he comes out even just a little bit, just keeps that going, that momentum going at all. I mean, his first 3 games, he had 4 receptions for 85 yards, 8 for 118, and then 6 for 205. I mean, those yards are crazy. And then after that, it wasn't even terrible. I mean, he had, 74, then a couple bad ones, 94. And it was just kind of like lackluster. It was every other one you get like 6 points and then 3. 6 points, 3. So if he can and that was the first year on the team. So I do think that he will improve on his numbers from last year. So once again, I like his upside. And when you get down this far, I think he's a value pick that, if he doesn't work out, it's no big deal.
Yep. 45th is Corey Davis, my 42nd, your 52nd. And there's injuries going on with Corey Davis.
The injury is why he kind of slid.
He's been injured basically since college season ended. He didn't make it to the combine. He didn't do anything. The pre-draft process still got the 5th pick, and now he's hurt again. But he looked great, I guess, from what reports say when he first was out there. Now he's hurt, so that's where I'm at with him.
I think he will be eventually a very, very good NFL player. I really, really like the guy. But if you're hurt going into the season and then you have those talented guys ahead of you, I just think it's going to take that much longer to get into the flow of the game.
Yep.
So I think it's going to really stunt his numbers fantasy-wise right away.
And who knows, if he's ready and he's great, this is a huge steal you're getting. So
Yeah.
I have no problem taking him as your fifth guy just to take a chance.
Yeah.
So.
Once again, upside, right?
There's little risk when you're getting him down here. He's not going for a crazy
And
price.
he is one rookie that I think when he's healthy,
Yep.
he's NFL ready.
Yep.
He looked the part. So
46th is Adam Thielen. I don't have much to say about Adam Thielen. I'll just throw that out there. I don't know.
he flashed some really good stuff. But once
Yeah,
again,
it's
he's
just-
stuck on that Vikings offense. I think that's the ceiling is just low for
Was
them.
that out of necessity? I don't know.
And do you still have Treadwell there? How Rudolph? Who is going to steal the targets?
Is Diggs going to get more? Diggs is still the number one for me.
Yeah, and Diggs will actually be healthy this year.
It's a weird situation. I don't know what to think about the guy. You're not taking a risk here, I guess, but we could be way low on him if those numbers that he put up towards the end of last year are true. If that's what he is, we're way too low on him. So that's why I think he has to be here. Just I don't have a good feeling either way, and I don't have a good feeling for that passing offense. So
I agree.
that's where I come down on it.
Yep.
It's maybe if this was a different offense, I'd have a little bit more, I'd have more of a opinion, but I don't right now.
Yeah, and when you feel about a guy,
It's
he
tough.
just doesn't end up on my
Yeah.
team, and he slides down my rankings.
Speaking of, Mike Wallace, 47th.
Well,
Right? He's yeah.
He's another kind of. I feel like he's gonna be another kind of boomer bust guy. I think he's there to stretch the field. He's a little bit older.
He's nothing to cost. He doesn't cost you anything, but he's just a guy. He's a depth pick, especially if you go maybe. I don't even know where you. Not even go risk. I don't know. He's just a depth pick where you just throw him on your team and let's see what he does. I guess
Yeah.
I'm just not excited either way. I'm just those two guys. Just sometimes that's what straight up tell people here. It's just some guys are just like, I don't.
Yeah,
I
when you
don't
get
know.
this low too, and I keep saying it over and over and over, but really I am looking for value. I'm looking for upside when you get this low.
I don't see it
and
there
I don't
yet.
see it for him, and that's why he's kind of
he should be ranked there, but he doesn't have the
Yeah.
upside of 48. Corey Coleman.
I would never draft him. I would probably take him off waivers in order to maybe fill in the spot.
Yep. Yeah, Corey Coleman's our 48th, and he has the upside. He has the talent. Again, he was injured. Another one of those rookie receivers last year.
Yeah.
Just you don't know quite what you got because people have been injured. He looked really good when he started last season before the injuries hit. There could be there is a good potential that he could be a player. That's the situation. The Browns. Who is their quarterback? I don't know.
Yeah, well,
We don't know. There's 4 options at this point.
yeah,
it
and
seems like.
they were talking about how it's Osweiler's to lose, and then Kaiser comes on the preseason, looks pretty good. And what do the Browns have to lose?
Kessler's just an afterthought at this point.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy over there. So I don't know who's throwing the ball. I don't know if he's healthy or not. So he's one of those guys that could.
He's a good lottery pick down here.
Yeah, I mean, you can't move up at this point, really. I mean, I think we're really hitting the trade deadline, or the draft deadline.
Yeah.
So he's one of those that kind of gets lost in the shuffle because he's just in a bad situation with some injury risk.
Last 2 guys, we'll round out our list. Buffalo receivers, Jordan Matthews, Zay Jones.
Both these guys, I like both of them for upside. Matthews scares me a little bit because he already got hurt within 15 minutes of practice starting, which is almost comical. Not for Buffalo, obviously. But if you had to pick between the two, obviously you've seen what Matthews can do. Do you like Matthews or Zay Jones? Say Matthews is healthy.
I'm going Zay.
I would too.
Yeah.
And I think it's a little bit I go for the unknown. But I really do.
Yeah.
I like the amount of catches he had in college. I realize it's college. I realize he went to a smaller school. But, I mean, if the guy really has that great of hands, he can really get that kind of separation that you need to in order to catch, 170 balls or something stupid. Yeah, I think he could be a huge help to Tyrod and especially, with Matthews if he's hurt again.
I think they must like him by just getting rid of Watkins. There's something there. Maybe, I don't know. That's not the whole reason, obviously, but they felt comfortable enough with getting rid of him.
And I love him, especially if you can put him as your last guy in your bench and just wait and see. First week, see if he looks good or not, and then you can move on from there. It wouldn't be a big deal.
Well, it rounds out our top 50. There's some guys down below here that we do like because of just the potential there, but they're not good enough to rank up there yet. Kevin White, Josh Doxson, Perriman, they're all guys. Basically, you're going to know the players we're talking about. Players that have drafted in the base of the first 2 rounds the last couple of years. Those guys: White, Doxson, Perriman, even John Ross. is there. Kenny Galladay now. He's moving up ranks after his 2 touchdown performance. Just who cares? He did that against nobody, but that bothers me in a way because it's going to move him up. I still think he's a good red zone target, and that's what it showed. But
Yeah.
even Tyler Lockett's in there.
Well,
Can he come back and be a player?
Well, and also, Baldwin got banged up recently, so
there's a lot of potential down there.
That can move up really, really quickly.
Yep. All right, I think that's it for wide receivers. We'll be back one more episode this week, and the next week we'll do a tight end ranking episode. Just one. We don't need 2 tight end ranking episodes. Do one. We'll do like a little overall, but we'll have our own little twist on it because people keep asking about, like a top 20 overall list, and I don't like to do those necessarily because it changes based on how the draft's going. But we'll do it our own little way next week.
Yeah, and it'll be close enough to all the drafts where it's not going to change drastically.
All right. Once again, thank you to FanUp Network for sponsoring today's show. Go check them out. FanUpNetwork.com. Download them on Apple, Android, all that good stuff.